Okay, I'm just making this quick video to follow on from yesterday. I haven't even edited the titles or anything, so just bear with me. Okay, you gotta keep going. Hang in.
All I want
FB. Hello, FB. So, excuse me for the mess. Excuse me for this weird video. It's kind of a... Oh, I'm trying to do some damage control from yesterday. I was checking through all the ephemera stuff, and I realized I've been talking about Mars in a way that's absolutely incorrect. It's going to look like a mess here, but I'm going to try and show you what I was talking about. My big concern... Hold on, let me just say hello, okay, just before we get in. Let's have a look. Yeah, you're here. Hello, folks. I'm up in the space station right now. I had to take a break. Sometimes there's a lot of static on Earth, and I need to pull way back to get a really good bird's eye view. I've got a portal over here, a lot of amazing equipment and technology available at hand, and then I can save it all on my laptop, and then I just teleport back to Earth, pop up a new video, and we're good to go. So anyway, here's the thing. I kind of woke up realizing, like, man, my fuses are blowing. I'm all over the place. It's a mess. There's something wrong with my charts. What am I doing wrong? I couldn't figure it out. And so I started checking through the different ephemeris, okay? And I was looking for mistakes. I was looking for ways that I was screwing up. And let me see if I can find something to show you. Hold on. And let's go over here. Yeah, let's start with the year of 2022. I don't know if I can do a share screen or not. Maybe I can. Let me see if I can do that. I might capture the middle of the charts. Let me just check for you while we're doing this. Doopy-doopy-doo. Oh, it looks like we might get the whole thing. I don't know. There's only one way to find out. Let me do it. I might have to make some adjustments, but we'll see. Well, okay, so we get a slight glimpse, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buzz through here. And you're not going to see the whole picture. There's February 22, March. This is when things started to get really scary with the European war. March and Mars and everything like that. And then April, May, June. June got pretty bumpy. July 22, August 22. Okay, here we are. See if I can fit some of that in here. What's today? The 21st. So let me see if you guys can see this. Anyway, here we are at the 22nd. Man, it's just not showing up very well. You know, I forget it. I'm just not going to bother to show you this way. It doesn't make any sense. So, ba-dip-ba-doo, bear with me. Doopy-doo, doopy-doo, doopy-doo. I'm going to have to... Okay, I'm going to do some homework here in the background. Just bear with me a few seconds while I take care of this. It's a mess. So as you can tell, yes, it's a total mess I've got going on here. But the point is, I want to get a message across to you folks. As you know, I've been tracking Mars since the beginning of the year, watching for flashpoints when things were going to turn violent or eruptive with war, and just people standing up, rioting, protesting, marching for their rights to be themselves, but also on the shadow side, we're talking about complete riots. That's like Mars energy gone totally berserk, that expression when you've got nothing left to lose, you lose it. Okay, so that's what happened in Sri Lanka, that's what's happening in Pakistan, that's what's happening in Yemen and Somalia. It's spreading all over the world. The nearer to the equator that you are, the more likely there's going to be a problem. And I'm over here in the United States, up in my own personal lab, so I'm a little bit protected. But anyway, back to Mars. Let me see how can I do this in a way? I think it's just going to have to be a verbal account with my astrodoodle. Okay, so here we are today. This is a very messy chart for today's business. And I have to get these ephemerides once a year, and this only goes up to the end of the year. And what I realized, as you know, I was talking about the journey of Mars, and early on, we had Mars. Okay, let me mark the retrogrades first. Here. Jupiter's already retrograde, and let's face it, Uranus is going to be retrograde any moment now. So that's Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. That's a massive wall of retrogrades. Let me just show you here. So that's where we are right now. This is kind of like a red alert. We're at the 22nd here, but tomorrow is the actual date. So we might as well be there already. So we've got Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, all retrograde. So that's going to lead to a lot of exposure about everything that's not working, everything that's fake, everything that's like corrupted, broken, damaged, in almost every aspect of deeper behavior and life experience of humanity. Okay? Just please remember, please remember, let me just state this very clearly, everything is exactly as it should be. Why is that so? How is that so? Because it can't be any other way. Things are the way they are. It's just pure physics. It's pure nature. When things are bad, things are bad. And that's just a perception. We have the orbits of the planets and so on, and they just do what they do. They don't mean any harm to us. It's just how we handle it, how we deal with it. We choose our own behavior, and we've got to this predicament today on Earth at the end of August 2022, as we call it, in human time, where we have 8 billion people, and we're starting to show all the classic characteristics of a living organism that has reached the full capacity of its living space. And then there's no more room to grow. So we start cannibalizing ourselves. Okay, that's what we're starting to do. It's showing up all over the world on a scale never seen before. Most of it, a lot of it is operated by these, let's say, totalitarian regimes at the very top of the pyramids of power, the so-called globalists. I'm not going to name names or anything, but I don't want to get into trouble. I'm in enough trouble as it is. And so when I look for like weather, pretend this is my weather station, I'm looking for hot spots, trigger points where we can expect trouble, okay? And let me go back to the charts, I'll show you what I mean. When I started going through all of the charts for 2022, it started to become pretty obvious pretty early on that we've got a lot of problems coming up with Mars. Mars, the warrior planet. Mars, the planet of identity. Mars is the planet of got to get what I need and do what I have to do for me to be me and no apologies. And sometimes things get very rough or bouncy, but Mars is also the planet of like heroism and courage and getting stuff done. So early on, Mars was over here in Capricorn. Things started to get very, very rough. Rumblings across the world about disruptions and warfare. Mars hit Aquarius in early February area, conjoining with Saturn, and then kaboom, we had the war in Eastern Europe suddenly explode on the scene after like months and months, probably years of building up, and then suddenly one day, it's a war. Next stop, Mars moves over here into Neptune, and all the really sick depravities that are going on across the Earth with the, I would say, the highly abusive cultures and behaviors of certain bodies of people. It isn't necessarily, again, I'm scared to name names, but there's a lot of like sick perversion stuff that goes on with people at the very, very tippity top of the pyramid of power and control and money, and that started to become exposed, and the people who are receiving it on the receiving end of the damage started to come out, and it's just rot, disease, and revolutionary violence against the fake sickness that's going around. Okay, sickness is happening anyway, but when it is deliberately manipulated and planned by a bunch of elites, that's not good. That's very, very sick human behavior. Then we had Mars shuffle up here over into Jupiter, and I predicted that the subject of violence and war would now radically expand in the global conversation, global human awareness, the global news media, and they wouldn't be able to shut it down. They can avoid reporting on it, and they can say, hey, look over there, watch this movie over on a streaming so-and-so about, angels and sci-fi and superheroes, and watch these videos all about makeup and hairdos and supercars and whatever it is. Watch prepper videos. Watch videos on, how to make chocolate cake or whatever. Don't pay attention to all the so-called conspiracy theorists who are extremely aware of what's going on. And then over here, months ago, we predicted, okay, we need to watch out when Mars hits Uranus over here, because things are going to get very violent and explosive all across the Earth with global finances, hint, hint, inflation, and money printing and all that kind of berserk crazy stuff, which is causing economic and political upheaval and failure all across the Earth. And a lot of it is planned and deliberate. That's what's really frightening, is the disturbing, the deliberate, planned demolition of society as we know it in order to benefit some folks at the very, very top who believe that they know better. So it got very violent, and that started to hit mainstream news. They could not avoid it. And so they talked about all the Chinese, Taiwan stuff going on over there in the Western Pacific. And you can't avoid headlines about all the war in Eastern Europe, because it's very, very real. It's spilling out all over. The gasoline pipelines, the oil pipelines, and how it's causing havoc in the European economy, all that stuff. You can see that on traditional news. I'm not a traditional news channel, okay? And then I started feeling, we need to be very, very careful, because Mars is relentlessly going to move on. It will retrograde at some point, but eventually Mars is going to oppose Pluto. Okay? And here's where I screwed up. Okay, this is the point of the video. My apologies if there's any other astrologers out there who were watching my stuff and they kind of made notes and went, oh, okay, thanks TL for the tips. Please scratch those tips from your book. Major errors. I'll try and explain it in really simple terms. It's just adjustments on the calendar, basically. Here we go. So, what I'm talking about is Mars opposing Pluto, because when Mars starts to oppose Pluto, I believe the subject of war is going to become even more pronounced. It will be impossible to ignore it. How that plays out, what that's going to look like, well, there's so many active war zones, there's so many cauldrons of heat that are boiling up right now that any of it could spark off at any time from other areas that have sparked off already, like kindling wood on a fire. And so that's what concerns me. Of course, you know what we're talking about is the nuclear reactor sites over in Ukraine, okay? I'm just conveying news that is common knowledge, okay? This is nothing controversial, it's just news. The big Zaporizhzhia power plant in Ukraine is now effectively, it's like a form of global blackmail that's being played. It's a game that's being played by both sides. Who's going to blow it up or who's not going to blow it up? How are we going to stop the crazy people from blowing it up and creating nuclear chaos all over Europe? I don't know. Anyway, so that's going on right now. And here's where the problem is, okay? So Mars is moving on. It's already in Gemini. It's going to stay in Gemini. And then it is going to retrograde back in Gemini, okay? In fact, Mars will never oppose Pluto this year in 2022. It's not going to happen. I thought it was going to happen at the end of October. I don't know where I got that from. I think I was reading, actually I know that I was reading my ephemeris incorrectly. Okay? It's just so many numbers and it just gets very blurry. I mean, sometimes I find it really hard to read these things, but I do the best that I can, and I made a mistake. I made an honest mistake, but it's kind of a serious mistake. So here's the update. Okay. The real trigger point is when Mars opposes Pluto, but it's going to happen. Let me see if I can do it like this. This is the only way I can imagine doing it. Forget all the other stuff on the charts, okay? I'm just going to make a weird new astrodoodle very quickly for you. It's just going to be about the subject matter I'm talking about right now. Earth. Okay, we know this is going to be Earth here. Okay, this is a Terra Lumination Astro Doodle. I'm trying to do some advanced astro forecasts for you so that you can start to prepare and understand that what's happening is inevitable and we're heading in that direction. What's exactly going to look like in detail, I don't know. But when Mars opposes Pluto, there's the potential for tremendous pent-up, violent, explosive energy that has the risk of just going ballistic, okay? And it's so close to the risk factor of going ballistic that everyone on Earth is going to be aware of it. And then so what do we do about it? Because we are in a nuclear age now that did not exist, okay? Some time ago. And we've had plenty of occasions when Mars opposes Pluto, millions and millions of times over the history of Earth, and probably hundreds of thousands of times over the history of humanity. But we've never had Mars opposing Pluto during such a direct time of direct global awareness that we are looking at nuclear scenarios, literally nuclear scenarios face on that affect the whole of humanity. The whole of humanity. So, over here we've got Pluto, but we're looking at Pluto on the cusp, okay? Pluto's going to be on the cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius. And that's going to happen in early 2023. Somewhere around March, okay? And at that time, Mars is going to be roughly here. August. Roughly. Damn, I think I might have screwed up again. Anyway, I'll have to double check all of this stuff yet again, because it means having to go back to all the ephemerids. And this is Mars. Is also going to be on a cusp of Cancer and Leo. So it's it's going to be a very weird cusp opposition. And how is that going to play out? Okay? So we're going to come back to this subject again and again and again. But I just wanted to point it out right now today that I made a big mistake last night, and I've been making mistakes for the last 2 weeks or so regarding this opposition. And I've probably there's a very good chance I've got the numbers wrong here with the degrees, and the numbers wrong here with the degrees, and whether they're retrograde or direct. But eventually, at some point, Mars will oppose Pluto, and Pluto will oppose Mars. And that, dear viewer, is going to be a bit of a calendar moment for humanity. Let's just put it that way. That's my personal observation. And then, of course, we have what's called the orb of influence. So that what we're talking about is this kind of energy. Or I should say more like this. Yeah, more like this. So the energy spreads out several degrees each side of the exact degree of the planet, here and here. And so we're talking about, because Pluto moves so slowly, and Saturn's going to be moving, over a period of weeks to do this. It's not like the moon for just a couple of days. We're talking about weeks. So when we get this opposition, we're going to start to feel it. It's going to start to become subject matter in global news headlines in some way or another, and I think it's going to be very much associated with war-like subjects. So I'll just put a big question mark there. And again, what does that look like? I mean, there's military, and I'm going to just put this aside. I've made a mess enough. It's enough already. Okie dokie. Let's have a look here. So, oh gosh, okay. So, all I'm saying is that I'm apologizing for the errors, and there's probably going to be more apologies because of errors on top of errors, all right? Well, there's a lot of retrogrades right now, so, I'm blaming the planets. I'm doing my best to keep up with all of this so I can pass on the news to you guys, all right? So, it's still going to be pretty bumpy through the rest of 2022, and then pretty much the whole of 2023. Once I get some time, I'm going to look through the ephemeris, because there's a lot of really choppy trigger points, and it's going to show up in the global economy, and then down to the local economy, right down to your street, your neighborhood, the grocery store, your politicians, your whatever it is. Okay, so thank you for those of you who dropped in. It looks like you all went away because I'm not doing readings right now. I just wanted to put this out there as a follow-up to the live show I did last night. All right, thank you all for watching. Thanks for being here.